Today we paint with contrast paints. No, never. So today we paint with transparent colors from Vallejo, inks, washes, and transparent paints. We are going to turn this dwarf from Torchlight Models into this.
That's good.
This project is a collab work with Torchlight Models at Patreon. Hi, I'm Don. Welcome to my studio. This channel is supported by all these awesome brands. So can you paint a model, a 3D printed model with just transparent paints over zenithal underpainting? Of course you can. A lot of people have been enjoying painting with contrast paints for a while now, but personally I can't because I can't paint with other acrylic brands, so let's do it via using Vallejos. First, we talk about the differences of inks and washes. As you can see, I prefer ink. I'm an ink person and I have ink all over my right arm. Oh, that's different. That's tattoo. But I really do prefer ink because they're like more saturated than washes. However, the saturation of inks is actually a problem sometimes. That's the main reason why you saw that I added a bit of glaze medium, roughly around 3 parts ink and 1 part glaze medium, just to soften the ink. Basically, I'm just wary of using inks without using medium, without softening it with medium, especially on larger surfaces. I actually use inks over smaller details without thinning the inks because you won't really produce coffee stains if you're painting small details. But if you're painting over a larger surface like this one, the skin, I highly recommend you add a bit of glaze medium and soften the ink so that you won't produce really ugly coffee stains. So why not just use water to thin down or to soften the inks? Well, basically, water will make the inks, which are very runny already, more runny or runnier and watery. And if the inks are very watery, the tendency, much like washes, is that it will go around or go along the crevices and details and settle and pool around those details instead of nicely filtering the whole model. I applied around 3 coats of inks over the skin because during the painting of this model, I decided to make the base color or the base coat of the skin darker so that I produce more or I apply more highlights later, thus producing more volume and more contrast. But if you're just going for a really nice base coat with the inks, you could stop with the second coat. Now we move on to washes. I'm using the washes because the Flesh ink wash is kinda too yellow in my opinion. So I added a bit of Flesh wash, Game wash, so that it gives a bit more brown to the overall color of the skin. Again, I'm making it darker so that I would paint more highlights on top of it later. So washes are great for washing. So basically the washes will tend to go around the details or pull around the details and crevices of the model. Thus you create more definition, and especially if you use really dark washes like this one. And also you could use dark umber and sepia wash, which are really dark and nice, and it will give more volume to your model. Washes are practically just watered down paints. So if you add water to your paints, and people call this glazing and stuff like that, but in my opinion, if you add more water to the paints, you're practically creating a wash. And the problem with wash, if you paint a flesh color on top of a model and the crevices and details of the model is black, it will kinda cloud those black areas and you will lose contrast. Basically, unlike inks, washes are just watered down paints. So much like oil paints and watered down paints, washes will not really be totally transparent, and thus I prefer inks. That foggy effect, though, is kinda nice if, for example, you paint a piece of totem and you want dust effects around the crevices of that model or that miniature. You could paint it with beige or sand yellow and thin down the paint into water with a lot of water and make it a wash. And then you wash it all over the model, and then it will look like a very dusty totem. Now we are painting with clear orange or transparent paints. Although there's clear orange and there's transparent orange. But basically both are like transparent paints. They're not inks and they're not washes. They're transparent paints. But they do have different colors. Transparent paints feel very similar to contrast paints. And they're not really like inks, although they're very saturated. But they're totally not like washes, which are very watered down. As you can see, the transparent orange has the same consistency as normal model colors. I think I saw a video, I think it was from Dana Hall. She used clear orange with glaze medium. And I guess she's more patient than me because I won't really do that because it will like add more transparency to the transparent paint. As you can see here, I did not actually thin the transparent paints. I just add a bit of water just to make it like brush painting consistency. But since it's transparent already, I don't really recommend that you add more mediums to it unless you're going for really subtle effects. Now we move on to glaring. Basically, glaring is an invented name by me. It's glaze layering, and we're using normal paints. We're adding a bit of glaze medium to make the paints a bit more transparent. So why do you add mediums instead of just adding water? You all know I prefer my mediums over water when thinning my paints because basically if you add more water, the paints become more watery, and if you add more mediums, the paints become more medium-y. So, kidding aside, if you add more water to paints, it becomes watery and it acts like a wash, meaning the tendency of for it to pull around crevices and details is very high. However, if you add more mediums, it also adds transparency, but the consistency of the paints remain almost the same. It won't be too watery. It's just enough to make it into brush painting consistency, which is awesome because you have the same consistency but your paint is more transparent. In my opinion, all of these are glazing. So basically wash, inks, transparent paints, adding glaze medium, adding water. Because basically for me, glazing is painting or layering of transparent paints. So all of these are glazing. However, I think it is established that glazing is super thin down paints or very transparent paints, and it kinda cleans up your layering so that you have good blending of your layering. So if you want to glaze a model, blend everything together, lazy wash and other means of painting with transparent paints is practically glazing and will clean up your edges, the edges of your layering, and will soften all those blending. And it's a matter of preference on how you do that, and I think most people like the lazy wash technique or the wash technique because it's kind of relaxing. You don't really need to focus too much and you don't have to be detailed in terms of using the brush. Now back to the video. At this point, the model is roughly around tabletop ready already, but we're kind of pushing it to golden lemon standard. So now we're basically glaze layering or layering lighter colors on top of our base colors, and we create more volume and definition as well so that our model looks like golden lemon. The light skin color that I'm using here or paint is thinned roughly around 3 parts paint and 1 part glaze medium. You could add more transparency by adding more medium and clean up your blending, but I'm using roughly around 3:1 ratio. Also, you may notice that I'm kinda stippling the application of the paint with glaze medium. This will create like a stippled effect on the layering, and although we're painting with semi-transparent paints, the stippling kinda creates a more natural blending look for the skin and the other parts of the model. Applying the paints via stippling is a really good option, especially if you're painting skin or leather and cloth. Leather, of course, it's dead skin, so basically you want the same look in terms of the skin, although it's a matter of preference if you want to add scratches too. At the latter part of the video, although I think I did not record it on video, I did add a bit of scratches just to like give more detail to the model. The light orange here, I did not thin with glaze medium because I find it too transparent already, and the consistency is kind of watery in comparison to other model colors, most likely because I did not shake the paint or the bottle well. The point here is that paint sometimes vary in terms of consistency, and you don't need to like stick to the ratio that I'm giving you or some people are telling you, because acrylic paints are notorious with inconsistent viscosity. So you just need to learn your paints, know how they apply to your model, and know how they look like when you apply them on the model or when they are dry. Now we paint the highlights. I did not record like most of the painting of the highlights because I need to focus a bit more on the painting of the model, and practically when I record it on video, my nose is practically hitting the camera while I'm painting the model, because you have to really focus when you're painting highlights. But do check out the colors and the paints that I used here, because these are awesome paints. Pale blue, like it's really great for highlights of cool colors, and of course ivory, it's a great highlight color for warm colors. I failed to record it on video, but I think I used sunny skin tone for the highlights and the details of the beard. You'll notice that I don't do glazing in between or while painting the model, but in this particular part of the video, I thinned the paint around 1 part paint and 3 parts glaze medium. So the paint is very transparent. I'm just cleaning up the layering or the blending of the painting. Oh, if it's your first time in the channel, I use highlight sauce when I paint highlights. It's just watered down retarder medium. It keeps my finer brush like wet longer than just using water. I'm not too happy with the painting of the gold NMM trims because I'm used to painting gold NMM and like silver NMM and metal NMM over black paint. So as you can see, I'm not too happy with the contrast of the gold trims, but I will just retouch those when I paint the other dwarfs. Also, I did not record on video the painting of the NMM, but we'll do that on different models. And in this one, it's a matter of just explaining the differences of inks, washes, and transparent paints. I had so much fun painting these models, these 2 models, and I'm painting more. Now we move on to our golden lemon standard painting reveal. As you saw in this video, you could actually paint like you have contrast paints. Contrast paints are great, but of course I'm a Vallejo painter and I would never paint with other acrylic brands in this channel. But I kinda sort of replicated how you paint with contrast paints using Vallejo paints. I'm very happy with the overall painting of these two models, especially because I only spent around 8 hours on painting both, maybe even 10 because I spent a lot of time on the highlights of the beard and the NMM and stuff like that. But achieving like tabletop ready painting with transparent paints is kind of fun and very easy. You'll finish the models in like less than an hour or maybe 2 hours, 1 hour each. I hope you liked the video. That's it, Pansit. Lastly, a ton of thanks to Torchlight Models for these awesome dwarfs. Do check them out at Patreon. That's it, we're done. I hope you liked the video. Do like, comment, subscribe, and consider joining the channel so that you'll be part of our Discord community. Saludos!